being told there's only one way to be responsible, that the debate is settled, that your job is to comply, not to question. But here's the truth. Your immune system isn't simple, and neither is the science. There is real research showing how early exposure helps train your immune system.
Studies that have looked at those that have had measles versus those that don't find that those that have had measles have a statistically significant greater reduction in deaths from cardiovascular disease and various cancers. So I'll give you an example. There's a 22-year prospective study in Japan funded by the government of Japan and major universities that tracked 100,000 people in Japan for 22 years. And it found that those that had measles and mumps had a 20% statistically significant decline in deaths from cardiovascular disease. Think about that for a second. Just think about that. About 800,000 Americans die of cardiovascular disease. If eliminating measles and mumps has increased cardiovascular deaths in the United States by even 1% on a life years lost basis, you are still way upside down on your public health benefit by eliminating measles.
Can I ask you what the speculation is of how that could be? Why would measles and mumps infection at an early age improve your health cardiovascularly?
Why would it also, those that have not had measles have a 66% increase rate of non-Hodgkin lymphoma and 266% increase rate of Hodgkin's lymphoma, which kills 20,000 people a year? Why would women that have had measles have 50% less ovarian cancer, which kills a lot of women every year? What is it about it? Maybe, and here's the thing, and you can have evolutionary biologists talk about this as well. You've had some on. Think about it this way. Pathogens have come and gone throughout the ages, right?
Right.
This one didn't. Measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, they didn't. It could be, maybe, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying this is what the data appears to reflect. What I just told you about with cardiovascular disease and cancer, they're all in PubMed. They're all PubMed studies. They're all in the published literature, and they're all consistent having the findings that I just described. Okay, I'm just a lawyer. I'm just repeating to you what the data reflects. It could be that having those febrile childhood infections conferred a survival advantage overall, and it could be the reason they never actually went away over time, became less obviously pathogenic.
So it has like a hormetic effect, and it makes you physically stronger somehow or another. It makes your immune system stronger, your cardiovascular, like a stress test. That means it's not outside the realm of possibility, right? I mean, if lifting weights makes you stronger and, studying makes you smarter, wouldn't it make sense that some form of infection that you recover from will make you more resilient? It does make sense. It's just like no one wants to say, hey, you should go get measles.
But also there's evidence that some diseases like measles can do serious harm to folks who have comorbidities. So the issue isn't blind trust in one side or the other, it's ownership. It's the right to ask hard questions, to look at the real data, to weigh risk and benefits for your own family, and to make informed decisions without being bullied, shamed, or silenced. Because when the conversation gets shut down, it's not about health anymore, it's about control. And the question still stands. Will you outsource your judgment, or will you take responsibility for your own health? Measles used to be a headline you flip past. In the 1960s, it was talked about as a common childhood illness, something families expected, managed, and moved on from. No 24-hour panic cycle, no constant drumbeat of fear. Now it's different.
Peter, what are you doing home from school?
They sent me home. Measles.
That's either measles or a strange case of red freckles.
You have got a temperature.
They told me 101.1. What's the record?
Never mind.
Oh, are you sure it's the measles?
Well, he certainly got all the symptoms. A slight temperature, a lot of dots, and a great big smile.
A great big smile.
No school for a few days.
Say hello to my dotted son for me. Tell him I'll bring him some comic books, and I'll see you later, dear.
Okay, honey, bye.
Boy, this is the life, isn't it? Yeah. If you have to get sick, you sure can't beat the measles. That's right. No medicine.
Inside or out? Like shots, I mean.
Don't even mention shots. Yuck.
Measles. Measles. Well, all the kids have now had the measles.
So have I.
Well, I had them years ago. Looks like the Bradys are finished with the measles.
Hold it. You're not through yet.
Alice, don't tell me you're coming down with the measles.
Oh, I hope so. I'd hate to think I was just learning how to blush at my age.
Same disease, completely different tone. Today it alarms, breaking news and banners, and fear pushed front and center because fear keeps people watching, clicking, and complying. So ask yourself this: did measles suddenly change, or did the way it's being used change everything?
What is fueling this current outbreak, and how much faster is this spreading than prior outbreaks we've seen?
Well, Janae, we passed a significant milestone. The current outbreak in South Carolina is now the largest outbreak of measles in the United States in over 25 years. That surpassed last year's Texas outbreak, and it done so in a shorter period of time. Nearly 847 documented cases. And to answer your second question, the reason why we're seeing a rising rate in the number of outbreaks, the size in the outbreaks, and the speed at which they're spreading is strictly because of vaccination rates. We've seen a steady decline in the rate of children vaccinated, down from 95% in the year 2020, closer to 90%. And there are pocket communities like Spartanburg County in South Carolina, near the epicenter of this outbreak, where the vaccination rate in some of these schools is as low as 20%. Wow. So measles is doing what measles does best. It looks for opportunity and it spreads fast.
And I'm glad that you compared it to last year's Texas outbreak, because we remember that comparison.
And let's not forget what the hot garbage media sold to us during the pandemic. Do you remember in March of 2021, multiple news outlets, including ABC and CNN, reported that Pfizer's COVID injection was 100% effective in kids ages 12 to 15, except that turned out to be a complete lie. Pfizer later admitted they hadn't even tested whether their vaccine prevented transmission before it was introduced to the market. Millions of parents decided to get their children vaccinated based on that lie. 5 years later, look, not a single person has been held accountable for the countless vaccine injuries and deaths that have resulted from the myriad of lies we are fed about the safe and effective so-called vaccine. Hot garbage.
We're going to begin with that encouraging breaking news in the fight against coronavirus. Pfizer just announced phase 3 trial results of its COVID vaccine on children, showing it is 100% effective in kids ages 12 to 15.
All this as more than 96 million Americans have received at least one dose of the vaccine. That is 37.1% of the U.S. adult population. Stephanie Ramos is live at the mass vaccination site at the Javits Center here in New York.
And the 2 kids who died of measles actually had comorbidities, and RFK Jr. just testified that they were shamed at the hospital, and people have testified that if they would have gotten the right treatment, they wouldn't have died. So that's another problem that we need to address, is the discrimination against the people who choose not to vaccinate their kids.
Because 2 little girls died tragically in the Mennonite community in Texas. Mennonites have not vaccinated since 1796. Oh, this has nothing to do with me. I went to the funeral of one of those little girls, and I spent a day with the family of the other. And both of them told me that when they took their children to the hospital, they were treated as pariahs. They were shamed. They were not given proper treatments. Both families believe their daughters, and their own doctors believe their daughters could have been saved if the hospital gave them proper treatment. The fact that they did not have a proper treatment to give them is regulatory practice by this agency. This agency has been so focused on a single intervention that it does not advise doctors about how to treat people who are actually sick. There's a lot of people in this country who, for religious reasons or other reasons, are not going to vaccinate. And I believe that we need to treat them with compassion and understanding and empathy and get them the treatments that they would get anywhere else in the world, except for this country.
Measles isn't the real headline. Control is. Because the moment fear walks into the room, freedom quietly walks out. And right now, you're being told to panic, not to think. They won't start with force. They never do. They start with headlines, with emotional stories, with just enough truth to hook you and just enough fear to make you stop asking questions. Do it for safety. Do it for others. Don't question it. And before you know it, a conversation about a disease turns into a test of obedience. You see, medical freedom doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes. One mandate, one narrative, one silenced voice at a time. So the real question isn't about measles, it's this. When fear is high and pressure is on, will you still think for yourself, or will you hand that responsibility over to someone else?